Welcome to the Programmes Dialogue. This is a series of events in preparation of the Clean Energy Transition Partnership, one of the partnerships under preparation for Horizon Europe, the new framework program for research and development. This series of events is facilitating a dialogue between ERANETs with their successful formats and with their experiences of the last 10 years and national program owners and program managers. The event series is hosted by the joint programming platform Smart Energy Systems. Please be aware that the events are provided on our YouTube channel as a live stream and as a recording, resulting in the fact that whatever you contribute in the chat or via live talk will be public. The Clean Energy Transition Partnership is going to be a transnational joint programming initiative to boost and accelerate the energy transition, building upon regional and national RDI funding programs. Therefore, the Programmes Dialogue intends to create joint knowledge about the most powerful and successful formats and tools to promote research, technology development, and innovation. In a mutual learning and capacity building exercise, we want to learn about good practices, successful activities, effective approaches, but also about the things we tried to do and that did not work out. For this, we want to create together with you an open and interactive atmosphere. The dialogue events are organized in a SureFix mode every Friday at 11 a.m. on this YouTube channel. Each event will present one or a group of initiatives, and we have already a dense schedule until mid-March. However, if you want to present your program or initiative and you are not on the list yet, please let us know and we will find a slot for you. Each of the events will have the same format of presentation blocks of about 10 to 15 minutes, highlighting a specific topic or aspect, followed by a question and answer and discussion session of about 10 minutes. If you have a question, please use the chat function in the YouTube channel. We will bring it up. You want to get on stage and discuss live with the speakers? Send your request in the chat. We will bring you up on stage. The process to develop the Clean Energy Transition Partnership has come a long way. We have started with a stakeholder groups dialogue with all the SETPlan initiatives and ERANETs, developing thematic RDI challenges in spring and summer last year. Based on these inputs in a country's dialogue, the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda was developed and launched in a SETPlan conference side event in November 2020. Now we want to bring together all the partners, funding institutions, ministries, program managers and program owners that are ready to contribute to the implementation of this new joint programming initiative. The number of countries and regions joining has been growing and growing over the last months, and there are still new partners coming on board. A great core team of enthusiastic experts from different organizations all over Europe is committed to bring this initiative forward. Enjoy the program's dialogue, and now let us introduce the speakers of today. Hello everyone and good morning. Thanks for joining on this Friday, the CETP program dialogues. We are now having the first event and moving into a couple of events where we concentrate more on successful national program formats that have tried to implement funding programs that are mission oriented or challenge driven. Why we take this into account? Because the Clean Energy Transition Partnership, in its development of the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, has identified a couple of innovation challenges in certain areas. And now the Clean Energy Transition Partnership is going to contribute to those challenges with its joint calls and with its activities. And therefore, of course, we want to raise the question, okay, what does it mean for a program or also for a joint programming initiative? What does it mean to be mission oriented or challenge driven? And therefore, we were looking for some national examples that we could present in this series of dialogues to stimulate this discussion. We are starting with some examples from Austria, not because we think that they are necessarily the best in the world. I mean, we hope that they are good, but it was the easiest to mobilize, as my colleagues from the program management fortunately were ready to take this on. Therefore, I gratefully welcome our speakers of today. That is Volker Schaffler from the Austrian Ministry of Climate Action, responsible for the City of Tomorrow program of our ministry. Elvira Luther from the Austrian Climate and Energy Fund, responsible for the Energy Research Program and the program Vorzeigeregion Energie, Showcase Region Energy in Austria, amongst many other things that she's doing in the Climate and Energy Fund. Clemens Strickner, who is the head of the energy team in our funding agency, FFG, in Austria. Supervising all of the implementation of the Austrian RDI programs in the field of energy innovation. And his colleague Peter Illich, and a rather new colleague, and welcome Peter also in this meeting and in this presentation. Thanks for taking this on. Peter has lately joined the team, so for those that are familiar with our colleagues at FFG, both Clemens and Peter are working with Urban Piker, that some of you might know. So, as always, I welcome my co-moderators, and today it's mainly Gerdi. Thank you very much, Gerdi, for really taking this on every Friday together with me. I enjoy your accompanying me here every Friday. Thanks very much for sharing this with me. Frederick has a conflicting meeting today. Maybe he will join later. So I think we are ready to start. Just, of course, I want to say thank you for the organizing team, Nicolas Reschen from the Austrian Ministry of Climate Action, together with Dirk Kuckertz from the Tonstudio Eschweiler. Thanks for making this ready for us. So let's jump into the first presentation block. As always, we have structured the event in 10 to 15 minutes presentation blocks, then questions and answers and discussion and so forth. The first one and the first example is the Austrian Stadt der Zukunft, City of Tomorrow program, managed by my colleague Volker Schaffler. And in the first block, we will have also a introduction in the other program. We're going to present the Vorzeigeregion Showcase Region Energy by Elvira. So you are sharing the presentation, as I understand, in this first block to loop us into the topic and to give us a first overview. Maybe before we start, and please, Nicolas, bring back Elvira to the scene again. Before we start, a very brief introduction from yourself about, I mean, I've said already a little bit about your role, but maybe you can add a little bit more what does it mean to manage such a program, and how were your experiences so far? Just a couple of sentences, maybe, for introducing yourself. Hard question at the beginning.
Shall I start?
Ladies
Okay.
first.
Yes, thank you very much for the invitation to present the flagship region. Yes, let's say the project started in 2015. Before I was only in charge of the energy research program, which is, let's say, very focused on different technologies, very technocratic. Mm-hmm. And the flagship region energy was the first mission-oriented program. I was afraid at the beginning, but I think it was a success at the end. Because I think in Austria it was the, let's say, also from the size, it was the first real mission-oriented program. But more you will hear in my presentation.
Absolutely, but that means you had to be a pioneer in a way. Volker, from your side, you're originally coming from more consulting a city government, which is interesting, and then you moved over to this kind of role in the public sector. So how was your personal approach?
No, thank you, Michael. I was coming from a smart city consulting in-house consulting group at the city of Vienna, where we built up the smart city framework and the first smart city project, so to say, within the city of Vienna. And then I moved to a research organization. So I think this was one of the benefits, to know the other side of research funding. And I'm very happy that we have a very great team at the program City of Tomorrow. Let's say we put the fun in funding.
The fun in funding. That's a great opener. So let's jump into your presentation. The floor is yours. I think Volker's gonna start, right? So please.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Volker Schaffler. I'm the coordinator of the also mission-oriented, but I would say it's a technological mission-oriented program called City of Tomorrow, Stadt der Zukunft. So the program started in 1999 when the department was lacking resources and money, so we had to focus very clear on one issue, and the issue was sustainable buildings. So in 1999, in the end of the 90s, the passive house movement went up. So we had a clear technological mission to build the first passive house in Austria, to enable the first passive house. What does it mean? It means we had to focus on materials, we had to focus on planning, we have to talk with architects, we have to talk with the construction companies, but also with the investors and the people who want to live or to invest into a passive house. And this was a real success. Austria, as an example, is now a passive house champion per capita. The whole construction industry moved along with this improvement. So we went from passive house to plus energy buildings. We demonstrated several plus energy buildings. After that, we moved on to energy efficient building blocks, where buildings share the technical facilities, their energy facilities. Then, let's say we had a short cut, and we transformed the program Building of Tomorrow into a new program called City of Tomorrow. And this program was focusing on positive energy districts. We're currently trying to demonstrate the first positive energy districts in Austria, and now we're heading towards climate neutral city, along with the European research mission, 100 climate neutral cities. Haus der Zukunft, for example, funded about 450 research project with a total funding of 80 million euros, and we erected 77 demonstration buildings all over Austria. City of Tomorrow currently funding 194 research project with a volume of 60 million euros, and we're currently hosting or funding free innovation labs. So we have a framework strategy, a formal agreement, so to say, with a duration of 10 years. That's why we moved from Building of Tomorrow to City of Tomorrow, because we have to update this formal agreement. We have an annual budget just for calls of about 8.5 million euros. We have a basic contract for substantial program support, an agency. We have an annual budget for additional services like events, publications, studies, travel costs, study tours, or also external consulting. And we have a very great support mechanism for further collaborations with nearly everyone. The elements of the program, I mean, the main elements is the policy and strategy element, which means there is a national strategy for research on energy issues, and we have to contribute to that. But we also take those targets and put it into our program. So it's more or less a feedback loop to the program, to most of the programs in Austria. That's why I call it receive and provide. The next element is external knowledge and stakeholder management. We try to connect, collect, and engage, which means it's not just about funded research projects, it's about a community. It's also about the knowledge that has to be gained within the program. And this knowledge is more than the output of research projects. And last but not least, internal management. You know, to operate, to monitor, and to improve your program, you have to build up resources, you have to build up capacities. And what goes along with that? We're focusing into calls and studies. Okay, that's more or less half of our work. But we're also focusing on research output and thematic outcomes, which means that outputs of research projects are just one part of the whole. And we try to put these pieces together. And we have a clear mission now. We try to enable climate neutral cities in Austria. The elements of the structure of City of Tomorrow is the ownership. The ownership is by the Federal Ministry for Climate Action, Environment, Energy, Mobility, and Innovation and Technology. The funding service is the Austrian Research Promotion Agency. They are aware of all the administration of the research project, of the call center, and doing great work, and they really build up a lot of experience. That's why they also collaborating and taking the lead role in so many joint calls. Then we have a very broad management group, the ministry, but also the Austrian Promotional Bank, which means we have to put, we try to boost outcomes into the market, you know, new solutions for the climate neutral city. The Research Promotion Agency, of course, but also our service agency, the support agency, the Austrian Society for Environment and Technology. They're doing all the base work, I would say, you know, preparing the events, going through all the publications, double check all the reports of the research projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Volker. That was the first introduction about the City of Tomorrow program. So why is it challenge or mission oriented? We could say in a way, if I might bring it to a point, we had the mission to develop the passive house or the plus energy building in the first phase, and now we are after like positive energy districts or CO2 free cities. How would you formulate it at the moment? The mission.
The mission is now to enable climate neutral cities. Yeah, with all its aspects, you know. When we focused on passive house, it was very easy because it was more technological driven, and now it's more system oriented.
Okay, we will come into more detailed discussions later, but now I think the floor is for Elvira.
Yes, thank you very much. Already start with, let's say, the strategic goal or the mission goal. And this more or less is the only thing we decided top down. Yes, top down. The aim is to develop and demonstrate model solutions for tomorrow's energy system with up to 100% renewable energy supply based on innovative technologies made in Austria. So this has to be proven by the consortia. We want to have up to 3 thematically different model regions, but we did not give any indication on the topics or how we wanted it. And we became 3 completely different model regions. In order, let's say, to get an indication about the funding and what could be, let's say, the topics, we already started in 2015 with supporting feasibility studies. 11 concepts were funded, and out of these 11 concepts, 3 model regions emerged, and only 2 of the feasibility studies were not, there was no follow-up. And what at this time we did once, let's say a networking event, where my CEO, Theresia Vogel, clearly told them, you have to merge your projects, which have, let's say, topics in common, because we will only fund 3 model regions. This would say, I think this was very important at this time, because they discovered that it's better to work together and cooperate and not to have competition. And based on the, let's say, the concept, it was decided that the whole initiative should have a budget of about 120 million euros. And each model region should receive between 20 to 40 million euros. It's million, not and we have 3 calls, so each call. And the duration of the whole initiative for the implementation was 8 years. And it started in 2018. The first call, let's say, for the implementation project was in 2017. And the end of the whole initiative should be in 2025. The project objectives, as I said before, the most relevant is the development and model use of local energy and energy-related transport technologies for the large-scale field testing of intelligent system solutions in live operation, so high TRL levels. Then strengthening and developing Austria as a lead market. And the third one, which is very important, is involvement and active participation of users. Because from our point of view, it's this not in my backyard, how do you call it, opinion. We should help people that they, let's say, see that there is the necessity for the energy transformation, and that the people are also willing to participate in this process. Yes, eligible projects. They are a cluster of research and development and large-scale demonstration projects. Technology readiness, as I said before, are between TRL 5 and 9, but the target is at the end of the initiative to have TRL 8 to 9. The funding is, I think this is unique in Europe, is a combination of research funding and environmental funding. So the environmental funding we need for the demonstration projects. And the share, let's say, is about 2/3 is research funding, and 1/3 is environmental funding. But this is increasing, and we see also that the international jury, that they appreciate to have real demonstration plants in the projects. And the selection within the program is a two-stage process with hearing. But in general, you can say we have this three-stage process, because the first selection is done by the flagship regions themselves. They define their research strategy and the white spots where they need research. Then based on this, they do a report. For this, together with a short description of the projects they want to apply funding for, and this is then evaluated by a jury. And based on this, they receive feedback which project should then apply for the second stage, where they do the detailed application. Yes, here you will see it's the definition of the region. The most important one is international visibility and relevance. And at the beginning, it was not important if it's, let's say, whole Austria as a region, if it's a federal region, if it's focused on wind, on industry, or whatever. This was, let's say, the only decision was done by the, let's say, applicants and the jury. And yes, success factors, let's say market maturity of the projects. They must have to be innovative, public visibility, national and international, and they should also include, let's say, market access activities, as I mentioned before, to involve people that they are willing, let's say, to participate in the energy transformation. And that's it. For the
Thank you very much, Elvira. So interesting program also that we have managed to set up here. Same question here as I raised to Volker. So summarizing it, the challenge or the mission of the program, how would you formulate it? In that case, it's somehow showcasing Austrian solutions for 100% renewables, right?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
This was the mission. And let's say, as I mentioned, let's say the strategy and which field of activities they apply funding for, this is decided by the flagship regions themselves. But of course, always have a hearing and the international jury giving feedback.
So thanks for this first overview to loop us in about, okay, what these programs are about. Before we move into the more detailed discussion about certain topics, I just want to turn to our audience today. I would be very interested, as we have shifted our focus from the organization of the ERANETs to the national programs, to learn more about who is attending today and what your certain interests are, because then we could also take this more into account in the things that we are discussing. Please support us with your questions, critical remarks, whatever you might have. That always makes it easier to really correspond to your interests with the things that we bring on the table. So let's have a look on the topics you have selected for the show today. The session, next presentation session is focusing on challenge-driven impact management or impact creation. So, because when we say we have a challenge-driven or mission-oriented program, we are after some certain impact we want to create. And the question is, what measures can we take in such a national funding program to reach or to generate that impact? The floor is yours again. What I forgot before we go into the presentation session is to ask Gerdi if she has any questions to you already on this and at this stage.
I have some questions, as a matter of fact, to both of you. We are now designing the Clean Energy Transition Partnership, which is an international collaboration, of course, where we try to move together faster. However, what you are doing is, of course, also very much based in the actual cities that you're working on, that you have in Austria. What is your perspective on the way? What should we learn from what you are doing in Austria for our work on the international level?
if I can answer this, try to answer this question, is what we've learned. When we focused on passive houses, it was more or less clear who is the target group. But now, where the target group is much bigger, like in a city, you have the economic sector, you have like the quadruple helix, you have nearly everyone that should be addressed. You need to understand the demand. You have to talk with the demand owners, and you really have to translate this demand into research questions. And you should not just focus into excellence of research, you should focus also into impact, because those institutions who have the highest amount of impact in most cases are not those who write the most excellent research projects.
And if I may contribute to this, I think, because the Austrian City of Tomorrow program is also our program that is participating in the JPI Urban Europe, which is the pre-successor of the upcoming Driving Urban Transition Partnership, which means, and I think that also the Austrian partners here were a driving force among others. And I think what Volker is saying also resulted in the way that the JPI Urban Europe is doing things together and how they have set up this transnational collaboration.
What I can confirm, let's say, what Volker was saying, because we had experience also in the energy research program. In the energy research program, of course, the projects at low TRL levels, they always were evaluated the best, because they were, innovation is one of the most important research criteria. So systemic questions and projects closer to the market didn't have a chance. So it's, from our point of view, important, depending on what you want, that you have a level playing field, so that you compare, for example, basic research with basic research. But if you want something more systemic and closer to the market and having a higher impact, the focus of the call and also how you develop the program should be, let's say, represent these facts.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that I can also say from my own experience that impact is really important, and if you want to demonstrate technologies in the real world, this really goes step by step, and there's no basic research is more innovative by nature. That's that's an important it's an important message, really.
But if you have it in the same call, you only fund basic research. And yes, and another thing is what mission oriented has one advantage. You get let's say you can address more ideas of different people. Because the experience we had, let's say, I also started, let's say, business administration, not even a technician. The most relevant and, let's say, also projects, I could not imagine that these things exist, for example. Mm-hmm. So really, if you have mission oriented,
so it's hard to call for them, right? So it's hard to call for them in
it's
detail.
hard to call for them, yes. And you address more people, the more mission-oriented you are. And then you get the best ideas. This was, let's say, we had several times this experience, and it's working. Mm-hmm. Because these projects, let's say, they are also rated very high from the international jury.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can add, if you're focusing on mission-oriented approach, it means impact-oriented, but you have to be aware, and you have to gain resources because you need more money for program management. You have to build up a communication structure with a lot of different utilities and problem owners and so on. And this is something where you need to motivate your own institution, because they want all the money into the market, into the research facilities, and into the companies who do their research work.
Okay, we will look into this, how you're doing this in a minute, I guess.
Okay, because I think it's an interesting topic, but if we have a presentation about that in a minute, then let's go for it.
Any more questions from your side, Gary? While you're thinking, I just asked Nicolas, do we have any questions from the chat already?
No, but we are still very happy if you want to contribute in the chat. As always, we are depending also on you to give us input for discussion. And yeah, sorry for the quick intermezzo. And now I'm handing back to the presenters for the next session.
Okay, so please, dear people that you're watching, try to actively contribute, help us to make the show as lively as possible. Gary, anything else you want to discuss?
Yes, well, I was curious because there are 3 model regions now, Elvira, and I was curious because I see that what you were aiming for was really generic and mission oriented in a way that it was very open. What technologies, what regions, etc., etc. Does what you got cover the excellence of what you would have expected from Austrian regions, and does it also cover the important topic of renovation, for example?
Yes, let's say
existing residences. Yeah.
Yes, let's say we have very different regions. The one is called Green Energy Lab. They have a focus on the electric and thermal grid. They have a lot, let's say, also focus on the end consumer, on households, for example. They do a lot of, they also include they have their own innovation process. They also address many startups. And they have, let's say, also a communication strategy, which I will present in the last part in towards the end consumer, to raise the awareness. Then the second one is called New Energy for Industry. So their focus is on decarbonization of industry. Mainly energy intensive industry, but also others like some, for example, which have they have a higher multiplication effect. Like because we have more or less we have few steel companies in Austria, but we have many in the food sector. They have a less impact on decarbonization, but as there are so many, then via multiplication, you get a higher impact. And their focus, let's say, it's from CCU in a steel factory. Then they have a lot on digitalization to decrease the energy demand. And the third one is on hydrogen. And they have 3 topics. The one is, it's the only one. No, it's not the only one. The other one also has on mobility. Let's say, but the on hydrogen has on the heavy duty of applications in the mobility sector, energy storage, and industry. And there, for example, this is a very small consortia, very industry driven, and mainly large companies. And yes, let's say, and also from the management, the Green Energy Lab has an innovation lab based a lot of interaction with let's say, companies and end users. And NEFI has on industry, but let's say, a wide group of industry, and really on the one on HQ is a very small group.
Okay, so we have energy systems, we have industry, and we have hydrogen as the main topics. We also have to say that it was really surprising how these clusters then and it also turns out to be more innovation clusters now than showcase regions, at least for the moment. I mean, I think they will come into the showcase phase later on, but impressive is really how much they were able to bundle the Austrian industry for these topics. That was really impressive. Yeah, so things are always a little bit open and come out differently as you thought them first. That was what Elvira said before. That was an interesting process. Just on your question on the renovation, Gary, I think the reason why this was not taken up as an important topic in this framework was because we are running this City of Tomorrow program already for such a long time, and it started as a Haus der Zukunft program. So already 10-15 years ago there was more or less this cluster, this separate program on this. Therefore I think, and they are taking into account the topic of renovation very much, so maybe that's the reason why this was not taken up as a topic here in that framework, because it's already some kind of covered. There's already a community working on this.
Thank you.
So maybe let's move on, as time is rushing into the next presentation session. And this is about a topic, as I introduced before already, that you have chosen how to drive the impact, the impact, and how to create impact with these kind of initiatives, and how do you have to manage, or which kind of activities did you foresee to exactly create that impact? Volker, the floor is yours again.
Yes. I want to sum it up with the whole is more than the sum of its parts. Well, I have to get sure that the program City of Tomorrow is more than the sum of the research projects. That's my main work. How do we do that? First of all, our stakeholders, let's call it triple helix or quadruple helix, academia, administration, economy. We divide it into a group that is the target group for research projects, and the target group for solutions, for outputs and outcomes of those research projects. So what we do in the calls is, we start calls for research projects in different topics, and we have to collect and to transform and to translate all the outcomes to another target group. How do we do that? Publications, seminars, videos, catalogs, scripts, workshops, and so on. We have I would say, like a shopping list full of different tools that we can use. Then we also need additional translators. A good translator is a demonstration project, something that you can feel. We try to fund demonstration project in the end of the line of our research projects. The second thing is innovation labs. We fund quite huge innovation labs, about 1.5 million euros per lab for about 5 years, focusing on one specific topic and try to bring solutions or outputs from other projects or topics, especially topics, into the market. Additional to that, we work with multipliers and door openers, like associations, or one of our most successful multiplier is we have a network. We started the network of the 7 largest Austrian cities, where we discuss several times per year how will the city of the future look like, what are the research questions, what is the demand of the cities, and we implement those experiences into the calls, but we also try to work with them on the implementation side. we're now adding several new networks, like a network for investors, for the real estate sector, and also a network with procurers. So what we do is we connect, we collect, and we engage. As I said, networking events, thematic workshops, we try to connect our experiences with the strategies. We collect knowledge and outputs with studies. We try to translate it with our public relation, and we try to present it, the whole content on our website. So our website is the biggest host of research outputs in the, I would say, in the German-speaking areas for building technologies, construction technologies, and so on. And we try to engage, speak with multipliers, work with them, and also collaborate with demand owners and so on. So the city of tomorrow is now focusing. This varies over the years. So we try to develop one topic until the end, and we more or less start an innovation lab to give them the last kick into the market. So currently we're working with 3 major topics. It's digitalization in the construction industry. It's not just BIM, it's also visualization for city planning. It's also tools and 3D printing of houses. Second topic is climate neutral buildings and districts. And the third topic is greening technologies. We've currently added 2 more topics because there was a political demand. The first one is the sustainable refurbishment because of the renovation wave. And the 5th one is the climate neutral cities because of the Horizon Europe mission. And what we did, and I think this was one of the biggest success stories, because years before, the calls were more or less, like I said, a shopping list of different topics. But now we structured the whole thing into 3 different types of project. First one is technology development. So we work with technology companies, try to improve heat pumps or something like that, develop and optimization of technologies and components. They don't need much assistance because they know the market. Second thing is coupling, integration, and innovation. Innovation is making a business out of new solutions. So we try to combine 2 technologies, and this doesn't mean that this new innovation will work. So we try to create a research topic around it for embedded technologies and methods. And the third one is transformation, because we're heading towards a climate neutral future, climate neutral city, climate neutral district, which means we don't know how this framework will look like. So we try to work with it with urban labs, with innovation labs, with research project focusing on different areas of this transformation process. So we're testing new frameworks and new systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Volker. I think there is some more from Elvira to come, right?
Yes, let's say for the flagship region, very important is we have it's called accompanying research, and to do an impact. One important element is the impact assessment, to know if we, let's say, we and the projects are on the right way. And they develop what they call solutions, model solution set theory. And yes, a model solution can be only one sub-project, but it can also be a couple of sub-projects, let's say, yes, several projects working on digitalization, for example, in industry. Or another example, we have one project with 5 demonstrators working on solutions for intelligent district heating systems. So this could be one model solution where we compare different ways to how to reach 100% renewable energy, and then compare it. And it could also be, let's say, one project, an associated project funded by another program, and activities done in the Innovation Lab. Because regarding Innovation Lab, we have, let's say, one Green Energy Lab has the focus on, the innovation process. NEFI, New Energy for Industry, they have a strong focus on scenario analysis and also doing hardware in the loop simulations. Of course, having impact on the sub-project development. And the third one on hydrogen, they don't have an innovation lab. So this is, let's say, a good experience to compare the impact, how the management structure is in the different flagship regions. Yes, and let's say the accompanying research, they have developed, apart from the model solution, also what they call the fingerprint and the footprint. And the fingerprint is taking a look at what does the model region do, what are the fields of actions, and what is the contribution they have to the Austrian energy research and innovation strategy. And the aim is not, let's say, to compare the different regions, but to take a look on how it's evolving over the years, the impact. Because as I said before, we have 3 calls of projects, and let's say the monitoring is done each year, and then we see how it's evolving. Like, say, for example, the contribution of sector coupling. At the beginning, can't be on level 2. At the end, it should be on 10. And so we can monitor the impact of this cluster approach, because it's not one single project. We evaluate always the cluster of projects, or what you call a model solution. And let's say these are the 4 main priorities in the National Energy Research and Innovation Strategy. The first one is plus energy districts. The second one is the regional energy system. Third one, breakthrough technologies in industry. And the fourth one is energy-related transport technologies. And yes, the second one is what we call the footprint impact of the flagship regions. Also, let's say there are three levels, taking in consideration the objectives of the call. So technology, market, and acceptance. And there we monitor TRL level development, the MRL, so the market readiness level development over the years. And the third one, which is maybe the most important one or the interesting one, is the system readiness level. So taking a look how the development within this project, their contribution, let's say, to an intelligent energy system. And yes, the first results we will have at the beginning of summer, and we're very curious to see how it looks like. And yes, it's from my side regarding the impact assessment. Yeah, we're looking forward, let's say, to the results.
Cool. Thanks a lot for the presentation. In a kind of self-critical manner, I would raise 2 questions. The one is to Volker, to be a little bit provocative. Somehow you could think, okay, there's not much behind it. I mean, they're doing some workshops. I mean, that's what everyone does. Is there something that you can share with us also in terms of, okay, with which really formats you're using there or so? I'm also thinking about this platform that has created with the city governments and so on. And the critical or the self-critical provocative question to Elvira. does that mean that more or less, I mean, the projects are doing this all from themselves, and you just need to monitor it, and on the program level, you don't need to stimulate that? Or was it more that you just gave the right targets in the call for the project, so that they are obliged to do this? Or do you have to do any activities also on program level to stimulate that? Volker first.
Okay. It's like that when you try to collaborate or involve other stakeholders that normally not really research oriented, then you have to build up trust. I've seen several platforms try to bring companies into new topics of research, and at the end they were just business developers try to sell products that they already have. But the main point was to develop something new and try to connect them with the supply chain of the future. And therefore, you really need to translate, and you have to build up trust for the right people to come, and that they understand it. I think it's really a problem of the whole research community, how to translate it to other stakeholders. That's one of the main issues that most of us don't understand.
Translation, I think that's and doesn't it also mean that the ones that you want to attract have to understand what they can expect? I mean, we have to make clear and translate the offers that we can make, right?
Definitely,
so that they can understand what they can expect from the participation.
We have in Austria, we have this great network of the biggest cities where we really try to where we communicate with the deputy heads of planning, deputy heads of construction, and so on. And in the first meeting, we asked them, "What do you need?" And the answer was money. And after 2 years, the answer is, we need a strategic support for battle climate change, for build up energy communities within the city and the public sector, and so on. So this was a 2-year-long process.
So they understand that they could gain strategic knowledge out of
common understanding. Yeah.
Elvira?
Yes, let's say. What I did not mention before was that we have, for each flagship region, we have a cluster coordinator, and all projects, they are obliged to cooperate with the cluster coordinator, and they have certain things to do, which also, let's say, is drawn is within a contract. But I think that, let's say, these flagship regions, they're really now, at the beginning, of course, we had to set the framework conditions, but now they want really to, they have an ecosystem and they want to have an impact, and it's not only money, they want to cooperate. They also see that there's, let's say, want to do large-scale demonstration, for example, applying for funding for the European Investment Bank, for the Innovation Fund. I think they will also be very interested in the Clean Energy Transition Partnership. And let's say they want to show that energy transformation is possible. I'm convinced of this, and they also had to develop each flagship region formulate a strategy, and each year they have to show to a jury how it's fulfill the strategy. And also they are obliged to adapt their strategy if for example, a law is changing or something in the framework conditions. And yes, they want to show that they are the best ones now.
So it has become a part of their DNA more or less over the time.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, but there was a phase where they had to, I mean, also learn how to do this and yeah, to get into this more. Gerdi, some questions from your side?
Yes, I have a question that goes in a bit of a different direction because we're thinking about the impact and what the direction is where the society moves and where companies can make money. I would expect that this is also an important part of the background in which these projects thrive. How do you perceive that? How do the projects fit in the policies of the Austrian government, and is there sufficient guidance and interaction there? Maybe first of all,
Okay. Yeah, our topics totally fits into the national strategy, there where we belong. We just try to add puzzle stones for the climate target, and in relation to the impact. In relation to the impact is that we try to align our research project with other instruments and also with other hubs. So this is one of the main tasks of the program management, and this is very, very complicated. You know, we don't really have to have enough resources to succeed in all these tasks, but we try to focus on the construction sector and especially on the thematic of energy related city planning. It's quite a small program. It's just 8.5 million euros per year for calls, but I would say for that kind of money, it's a huge impact.
Yes, I can confirm it. We also have, let's say, more money, but one example, we funded a project with 4.5 million euros, and the total cost is more than 25 million euros. So to do large-scale implementation.
If you build up a strong partnership with the right target group, it's not about the money. Some institutions just need those safe environment of a research project to do something that they're normally not able to do. That's especially what city do, because within research projects, academia, companies, technology companies in city, they can communicate on an equal level, and they can look beside the curtain, more to say. And it's in some cases it's just those 100,000 euros and this 12 months of time to create something great. I would say one of the projects with the highest impact was a study for climate adaptation, and the output was that the city of Vienna created a strategy to avoid urban heat islands, which means blue and green infrastructure all over the city in the next few years. Huge impact, 100,000 euros.
Just because they understood what to do, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Another question, maybe, Volker, you showed a picture where you saw the technology development, the coupling and integration, and the smart integration, or something like, the third I forgot, but would you agree that we need to act on all levels to get there? Because I think that's one of my firm beliefs. So I would like to have your opinion on that one.
Yeah, that's really discussion within the ministry, because with some of our guys, they're totally focused on technology development, and in some cases they are right, because there are popcorn technologies all over the world to just wait to pop up. But we have so many solutions in the background that are ready to start, and the problem is not the technology readiness, the problem is the system readiness, because the current system sometimes doesn't work because we're lacking of regulations and we don't know how the future will look like. Within energy communities, is one of the best examples. And sometimes it's just an issue of business readiness. So it's not just the technology companies, you need an operational partner, or you have to rethink if you really hit a demand or not. But the technology is still working. So you're right, we need to focus on all of the three levels. And I had to add, the excellence is in most cases at the technology side. And the more you go down into system integration and demonstration transformation, it's lack of research excellence, and you have add a lot more resources, which means support into it, because the stakeholder group is larger. In the first case, it's this is just technology companies. But on the last phase demonstration, you have inhabitants, investors, planners, and so on. It's complicated.
Yes.
And I think in the last phase, you also have the higher risk because you're also more visible. You have, let's say, to show that the technology is really working, and also fitting into the energy system, and people will see it or experience it. Because when there is a building where people are living in, let's say they experience how it is. If you just development it at the university of a research studio, you don't have this, let's say, risk, because if it does not work, or if there is a failure and you have to fix it, people will not see it.
And on the other hand side, if you have this kind of, like we have now, a university building where all the institutes are working in with high efficient equipment and everything, in a high efficient positive energy building, then yeah, they experience it really every day, right?
I would add, for every focus group, for every target group, there's a door opener, and you have to analyze this door opener. For example, we try to work with investors, for real estate investors, and we ask them, would you try to implement a plus energy building or something like that? And after a long discussion, they said, our return on invest is 3 to 5 years. And you're asking us going into projects where the return on invest is 15 years. And we told them, yeah, but you can make a lot more money, because the building will stand there for 40 to 40 years, and you can sell them energy, not just flats. You can sell them energy, mobility, whatever you want.
Services.
Services. They don't understand it in the first phase. Some do. But then we identified the door opener, and the door opener was more or less, they're interested that if they're in the renting business, that the switch of the renters is very low. How to do that? Raise
they
a little
want
bit
a low
the
change
quality
rate
of
of
the,
renters, right?
Yeah, right. So they're willing to raise a little bit the quality within the buildings in the district. And then we come with the greening technologies. Then we come with, how do you say, the temperature, and a new energy network, and so on.
So to raise the quality of the service was the factor where they thought they could have a good influence on having lower exchange rate of the renters, right?
And maybe higher rents.
Maybe higher rents, yeah.
And
Okay.
isn't it also image?
Yeah, as a demonstration project, it's always image.
Green,
And they love,
and so on.
right, yeah. And they love those labels, like we have Klimaaktiv or a LEED.
Yes, I think that it's very important to get the energy transition going, and you really need everybody to make it happen, and it also needs the right steering from the government, from the city governments, and etc. etc. If I'm looking at the Clean Energy Transition Partnership, I see the value of the mission-oriented approach, and at the same time, there is no. It is a bit of a question whether the city government of Amsterdam, how they engage, how they learn from what happens in Vienna. That's a thing that where we need to think about. I think you have, of course, in the positive energy districts and driving urban transitions collaboration. There's also a bunch of there's also some experience to go on, but it is on the whole energy research. The whole range of topics that we have, there's a lot to be thought about. This is just a comment; it's not a question. But yeah. Thank you for these observations, Volker and Elvira.
Thank you, Gerdy. I think that's a very, very valid point, and I think it connects to what Volker said before about the value of strategic knowledge, because this is exactly, I mean, they can, we had this experience for a long time in the focus that we had over 10 years on smart grids, that many times people from the projects, but also the stakeholders in the discussion said, yeah, but politics has to show the way, we need clear decisions, we need directions where we should go. Unless we don't know that, we cannot, move in the right direction and develop. So politics has to decide. And on the other hand side, we are in between as innovation, more or less. On the other hand side, you had the regulators and the lawmakers and so on that said, yeah, but we don't know what is the decision, or what should we decide, what is the best way to go. And here I think innovation, and we as innovation, can play a very important role to be the intermediate between creating strategic knowledge on the one hand side, and on the other hand side, and with this supporting those actors to take the right decisions, and on the other hand side then giving better environment for the innovators to go in the right direction. That's maybe a role that we could see.
I think that's a very good summary, because otherwise it's more or less a battlefield of lobbyist groups.
Mm. Yeah, that's what I think it is at the moment in Austria, or it was a long time in Austria. Okay. Let's move on. I'm just looking on the timing. Let's move on in the next presentation session. And that's about processes and instruments. And Peter Illich is going to present this. He's, as I said at the beginning, working at the Austrian Funding Agency. At the end, they have to somehow implement all the things that climate energy funds, ministries are more or less trying to invent. So it's a hard job to do. And which instruments you have created, and which procedures and processes to make these programs successful, this is what we're going to hear from Peter, together with Clemens also, that will be then part of the discussion.
Yes, thank you, Michael, for the introduction, and thank you for the invitation to this program dialogue. I will change topic a little bit and present you or give you a short overview of the processes and instruments realizing all these projects. Before I do this, I want to give you some general information about the Austrian Research Promotion Agency. The FFG was founded in 2004, joining 4 different organizations. Its owner is the federal government, represented by the federal ministries of climate action and digital and economic affairs. And we have about 350 full-time equivalent employees here at the FFG. What is our mission? Our mission is the implementation of all national and international RTDI funding measures, supporting the business and science in European and international programs. Then, of course, as Michael pointed out already, the support in the program design, coordination, and administration, and the representation of Austrian interests at European and international organizations in RTDI, and in the end, also, of course, raising public awareness and promoting innovation in Austria. So basically, we are a one-stop shop for both sides, for the clients on the one hand, and for our contracting authorities on the other hand. Following this mission, I summed up some numbers from 2020. We were able to fund approximately 3 billion euros of business-related research in Austria in 2020, of which approved direct funding, or FFG funding, was reached of about 570 million euros. And this is a good number for a country like Austria. And still there is room for more funding, represented by the number of 233 million euros, which was disapproved funding, but due to lack of available funding. So how do we get to these numbers? And now the topic of the presentation. We have certain procedures, of course, within the FFG. The FFG funding programs, such as Cities of Tomorrow and Energy Model Region, they are carried out on the basis of harmonized funding instruments. And these funding instruments, they define the specific criteria and conditions for the individual project types, such as cooperative research projects, feasibility studies, flagship projects, etc. So within such programs, we use a specific mix of instruments depending on the corresponding call objectives. And these instruments follow or provide us a consistent processing standards. Within the FFG, we have 4 models of processing standards or evaluation methods within thematic programs, and also within the programs City of Tomorrow and Energy Model Region. Model 3 and Model 4 are applied using evaluation by external expert committee and the decision by the contracting authority. So depending on the used instrument, these models are applied. More specifically, you can see here the schematic overview of the selection procedure. So how are projects in the end selected? Starting with the submission of the project, followed by a formal check by us, the FFG, and followed by the reviews by experts, and the experts meeting in the end that results into a funding recommendation and the funding decision by the contracting authority, and the financial and feasibility check by us, the FFG. Then in the end, the notification of funding applicants and the preparation and signing of agreements, and finally the project start. So this is the selection procedure, and in this case for one of these 4 models, Model 3, without hearing. As I said, these sequences of process steps depend on the instruments used. and these instruments are harmonized and describe the criteria and types of projects that are funded. Within the Cities of Tomorrow program and the energy model region, mainly the instruments in this table are applied. So feasibility study with a funding rate of 80% and maximum funding of 200,000 as an initiator of potential follow-up projects such as cooperative research and development with a duration of up to 3 years and significantly higher funding, flagship projects, and innovation labs. Then diving into the differences in this processes and selection procedures between the two programs of today's session or dialogue. In principle, the two processes are quite similar. The main difference is that the energy model region has a two-step submission way for the proposals, where in the first step, pre-proposals are handed in and evaluated by an external expert committee, which then result into the second step of the final submission of the sub-project proposal, followed by the steps that I have shown you before in the sequence of the process steps. Yes, what helps us managing all of these submissions and projects is the FFG electronic submission system called eCall system, which acts basically as the interface between projects, clients, and the FFG, and is a very helpful tool for us, of course, but also for our clients to hand and manage all of their project submissions. With this tool, with the system, our clients are able to create new projects, work on project reports, change, modify project relevant data or consortium data. And of course, it also serves as a communication platform between us and each individual project. So this is on the one hand a very helpful system with managing projects. On the other hand, regarding the expert committee, the FFG relies on a very good expert database, which is growing program by program. With this expert database, we are handling all the communication, coordination, and administration of national and international experts and expert committees. We have a comprehensive overview and list of competences and expertise and skills of each of the experts that are in this database. And yeah, we of course also use this database as a communication platform towards the expert committee, providing all relevant documents, guidelines, manuals, and of course also the project proposal information through this database. How are projects evaluated? The projects are evaluated according to 4 main criteria, which are also subdivided into several sub-criteria, which are on the one hand the quality of the project, assessing, for example, the innovation or degree of innovation of a project, then the suitability of the applicant or project partners, evaluating the capability or competence of project partners, the benefit and exploitation, so how are project results used in the end, and the relevance to the call. The goal is, of course, to reach a very good score. A maximum of 100 points in this criteria can be reached with a threshold of at least 60 points that have to be reached. This is a more detailed slide of the evaluation points that are given. The points are awarded, as I said, per sub-criteria, and the thresholds values, they have to be reached in each of the main criteria. Yeah, and then coming to my final slides, how are the evaluation committee meetings happening? There are mainly two variants in the FFG that are applied. On the one hand, we carry out single panels for smaller calls, single panel meetings where the decision meeting for the funding recommendation is happening in the same meeting, leading to a funding recommendation. On the other hand, for bigger calls, we have several panels and a separate decision meeting for the funding recommendation in the end. And then a short overview of who is part of such evaluation committee meetings. On the one hand, of course, the experts, the jurors that I have already talked about, the moderators from the FFG that are not entitled to vote and acting as moderating roles. In each panel, we have panel speakers that are also participating in the final decision meeting. We have the jury chair that reviews the decisions of the jury and the evaluation process. And we also have observers that are mostly representatives of the authority or representatives of the program management team. And with this, I have only this slide left. Responsible from our side, from the FFG, for the two programs, City of Tomorrow and Energy Model Region, are my colleagues Katrin Bolovich and Urban Peiker. So if you have any more specific question, you can contact them. And of course, also Clemens Strickner and me, we are here for questions today and also other times.
Thank you, Peter. Wow, that was a lot of details also about the project selection process and so on. Just one question before I move and I turn over to Clemens. I mean, many things of this project selection process and criteria and so on are quite common to let's say overall RDI projects. It depends then how we apply them in the specific case. But what would you say are the most important factors here in the project selection phase also that and monitoring that you showed in the processes? What is most important to support this kind of mission orientation or challenge driven programs? Is there something that you consider as particularly important?
Yeah, Michael, as you mentioned before, I think these processes they are lasting a long time and they were developed quite in a very long way. Of course, it always depends on the call guideline. You know, if you focus on a special mission, you will have it in the call guideline, and you will say there, and you will focus very detailedly out what's important and what's maybe less important. So then the applicants, they have to deal with this. They have to write their project and have to design the project in that way. And of course, in the committee, you will have a special look on that. So yes, if it's mission oriented, and yes, if you have special targets, special goals that should be reached in this project, you will point it out in the call guideline, and then they have to reflect on that. And we are having a quite, or the evaluation committee will have a very specific look on that issues. For example, maybe we just implemented a new criteria focusing on sustainability. Sustainability, I think that's really a very, very important, and it's not only a hype, it's the future. We have to look that we have to be more sustainable in the way we live and in the way we do everything, and that's the future. And we the FFG, we said, okay, it's not a hype, it will be a long-term mindset, sustainability, and we implemented it now in the criteria for projects. So as Peter mentioned before, there are four.
So you mean for all type of projects, not only in the energy innovation?
Now we are in the pilot phase. And we implemented it for we call it the C4 instrument. That's the cooperative R&D project. And we also implemented it for the flagship projects. So we have a pilot phase with two instruments in the FFG, and there the criterion sustainability is now implemented. And it's one of the sub criteria. We will have to have a look how it works. It's always the question, how are the evaluators dealing with it? Is it really? It's not easy to rank it. Is it really sustainable? How do they describe what's sustainability in their way? But now we're starting with that, and that's a very good example how you can implement such things in these processes.
Thanks. Before we maybe go into even more details of how to manage all of this, maybe broaden the topic or the scope a little bit. And I think what you touched upon in your answer now is already a part of this discussion, but also on a personal level. I mean, you and your team are very committed to support those kind of programs that are coming from the different customers. Let's say you have on the one hand side, on the other hand side, you have the customers, the participants, companies and researchers that receive the funding, but on the other hand side, you have the customers, the ministries and the climate fund and so on. So and you are in the middle of all of this, and somehow, I mean, we all know governments are coming and going, and sometimes strategic focus is shifting and so on. We in the administration are the ones that have to somehow guarantee the continuity of that all, at the same time also reacting to this. We have limited teams, we have limited resources, and I mean, all of these things sometimes require specific, putting the finger on specific things. So is that really, I mean, is it a steady conflict, or is it a steady challenge also to an agency? And on the other hand side, how can we manage that? And I think what you have shown in terms of creating standard procedures or methodologies with which we can work is, I think, one part of the answer maybe, but also from a personal view, I mean.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, as you just pointed it out, Michael. It's we are living in a time we have a lot of changes these days, and we have to be aware that we are implementing these changes as good as it's possible into our processes, having a look into the future. Meaning the outcome has to be a good one, dealing with changes, it's not easy, because people are different, human beings are different. There are ones who are easily dealing with changes, others not. But we're really trying to find a good way, preserving the good old things and having a look at the new ones, and that's how we're trying to deal with that.
Good point.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I think you mentioned we have a lot of customers. We have the applicants, we have the companies, the universities, the R&D organizations, but we also have the ministries and the climate and energy fund who are giving us the money, more or less, So we have a really broad range of customers, and they have different demands. And I think the most important thing is keep in contact, have a good communication with all these stakeholders and all these customers, so that you have an open ear. What are their demands and needs, and just and we are building up a community. We hope we know each other, and we know how companies are running, we know how universities are running, we know how ministries are running, and they know how a research promotion agency is running, and I think we really have a good relationship with all these customers, and we are always, and day for day, we are really trying hard to improve.
Gerdie, some observations or questions from your side? Being a part of or in a funding agency too, right? So you're in a similar situation, I guess.
Yes, I recognize very much of what you're saying, and also the fact that we have very many stakeholders to engage with in different ways, and they have different interests, and we're at crossroads to bring it all together and to stimulate that the funding goes to where the policy interest lies. Yeah, it was an interesting presentation. Thank you very much, Peter. And I was also, it's very good to see those processes, and also this very well-organized way that you're distinguishing between the various routes to a funded project that you were pointing out. I think this is inspiring. We have something like that at the Netherlands Enterprise Agency too, but I never realized that, and thank you for that. So I would appreciate it.
I'm happy to hear that. Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, that's also something that we can learn from each other, I think, in the initiative. One particular point I wanted to take out that Peter mentioned, because Frederick is hitting this drum from time to time. You mentioned, Peter, that it's always a challenge to find good experts to evaluate the projects. And Austria is a small country too, so we always have to rely on international experts more and more, because more and more of the Austrian experts are engaged in the projects themselves. And I think that our database really has gained from the transnational cooperations we are doing, because here we learn to know experts from other countries. One additional challenge very often is that we are not doing all of our calls in English, so we have to find people that are able to speak German many times. Sometimes we also use English, but that's the minority. So that's an interesting thing. And Frederick is always saying that he sees here a good chance also to collaborate on, building these expert databases together and gain from this, as we have all the same tasks on the national level too, that we have on the transnational level, where we also have the same mechanisms to evaluate projects and therefore need kind of the same experts.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to answer, Peter, or?
No, you can answer.
Yeah, of course. This expert database is a very huge and powerful instrument and tool for us, and it's really, really necessary to have this, because if you imagine you have a call and you have about 200 projects coming in, and you need to divide this thematically into panels, and you need at least three evaluators for each panel. So you need a lot of experts, to evaluate these projects. And of course, whenever there are new programs, whenever there are international activities going on, or new programs are coming up, with new thematic issues, we are more than happy to get new experts from other sites and from other all over Europe, and as you said, Michael, yes, if there are new programs are coming up and there are new persons coming in, getting on board, we are more than happy to get this information wherever we get it from, and to put these persons into this database, because the more you have, the easier it's to get the right amount of experts to do all these processes and procedures, and the setting up the evaluation committees.
No.
Because sometimes it can get really stressy, if you need someone and everybody or a lot of them says, no, I'm sorry, I don't have time, I'm on vacation, I'm on holiday, or you can't really find the right person with the right expertise.
Yeah.
And the bigger this database is, the easier the job goes.
Yeah, they have to be available at the time where we are doing the evaluation.
Yeah. And it's not only one program. It's not only City of Tomorrow. It's not only the energy model region. We have about 12, 13 programs only in my team, in the energy team. I'm not talking about the basic program, about the other teams, the production and the mobility team and the digital team and so on. So, yeah. That's
And
important. Digitalization, the digitalization issue within our agency is a very, very important issue and theme, because it helps us to make work easier and to implement all these applications and tools, and we are really, I think we are on a good way. The e-call, the expert database, now the e-work, we are rushing into. Back to sustainability issue, we're rushing into the paperless, or how do you say, the paperless bureau, and that's fine.
Gary, some more topics to discuss?
No, I was looking at the time and see that we have to move on, in fact.
Yeah, then let's do that. Thanks a lot for this discussion. I think also shading an important light on what does it mean to implement all these kind of things. And the last session for today is dedicated on a specific format of projects, and it's dealing with innovation labs and demo projects and some examples. I think Elvira is taking the start here. The floor is yours.
Thank you. First, I'll do a short summary because I already mentioned the three flagship regions. The one is the hydrogen region, as mentioned before. They don't have an InnoLab. They have other way for management, focus on large-scale companies together with research, and they are, let's say, Austria is the whole flagship region. And they have many demo projects. More information, you find the link. The second one is the New Energy for Industry. Focus is on two regions where we have heavy industry in Austria. They have an InnoLab with focus, let's say, more research-centered innovation lab, doing hardware-in-the-loop simulations, scenario development. And the third one, which I want to focus more on, is the Green Energy Lab. It's the eastern region in Europe, in Austria. There are 4 energy companies. They established an association, which from our point of view was sort of, let's say, we say in Austria, Eastern and Christmas together. And they, let's say, have a very user-centered focus. And they are now, as a showcase, I want to the examples to how they do the communication. They have a lot of press activities and newsletters, website, online marketing, social media, and they do presentation and panel discussions. And one of the points, let's say, they try to find new partners for the projects. They have an innovation circle. I think they have it at least 2 to each half year, and really to find new partners also startups, but not only, and to develop together projects. And it's written here, they have, let's say, 2 million potential reader contacts in print each year. So this is, let's say, to reach many people all over in Austria. And personal point of view, this, let's say, because of the topic, which is more, let's say, everyone can understand, for this it's very important to have this acceptance for the energy transformation. And yes, there is one example. You can see also, let's say, a lot of newspapers, articles, so that people know what's happening in Austria, or especially also in the region, that people know where they can go, or people living in the area know that something is happening in the region, and take a look on how this innovation looks like, and it's not scary, and it's working, which is very important for us. Yes, the last one, let's say. Really, they do very good marketing. The people are willing to take a look on the projects, and you can understand them easily. If you're not an expert, and this is a very personal point of view, very important thing. Also for research and innovation. That's from my point. Closed now, because I know we are short of time.
Cool. So let's move over to Volker. I think you also have some input on this, right?
Right. I will show you some examples that are output of our program to understand a little bit how we work and how our projects are fitted. For example, when our focus was on plus energy buildings, our lighthouse was the retrofitting of the energy of the university building of the Technical University Vienna. It's now a plus energy building, which means it's not just about heating, cooling, and electricity. It's also included is the whole demand of all the utilities within the building. So this was a chain of projects where at the end of this line was the demonstration itself. So we were focusing on materials, on planning issues, construction, on the housing technologies, and also on the installed smart devices and an operation and monitoring, because this is more or less a computer. It's the first worldwide plus energy office building. It's the biggest facade integrated PV facility in Austria. It's automatized night ventilation for cooling, which is a super smart building. And the energy demand, as I said, it's a refurbishment. It's reduced by 88%. So, and this is I would say, most sophisticated retrofitting project we had. We funded about 77 projects since 1999. Another instrument that was given to us by the FFG was the Innovation Lab. As I said, the Innovation Lab is more or less a multiplier for thematic focus. For example, our Innovation Lab Greening Technologies, the funding is 1.5 million euros for 5 years. And the aim is to provide research infrastructure. And the second thing is to work a little bit as a competence center for this topic. And what they've gained so far is, out of this 1.5 million funding for the research infrastructure and for some personal resources, was that they've gained another 30 million euros additional research project. They've gained 4 million of direct contracts and 100,000 euros for services to third parties. So it's growing like a plant. It's very, very successful, and they're more or less for us the door opener for the implementation of our focus topics. Plus energy district is one of our main topics, and we're currently working on the implementation of the first plus energy districts. We funded several concepts so far all over Austria, and just to show you that this is also one of the success stories, because we've started with building technologies in 1999, and now after 20 years, we went so far that we can now implement a plus energy district. So this is a 20-year-long success story. And last but not least, our current mission is towards climate neutral cities. Through the help of the city network that we built it up in Austria, we asked the biggest city in Austria to elaborate a plan towards climate neutral future, and those projects will start in the next few months and a month. And the biggest cities in Austria, they have committed that they will demonstrate climate neutrality until 2030 at a, I would say, at a district level. And they would elaborate a vision, a roadmap, and an action plan. The output will be a catalog full of activities that should be done in the next 3 years, and just some of them will be further research projects. I would say most of them is just implementation or just updating their planning frameworks or collaborating with other institutions. So they will come up with concept for climate neutral district, and one of the most important issues, they will start thinking about how should a smart governance within the city look like, because they're still silos, and to build up capacities, very agile institutions or people of positions within the city who can manage research or innovation projects in the next few years and helping to implement their roadmaps and action plans. And in the future years, in the upcoming years, we will try to provide those Fit for Urban Mission initiative with further research topics. And the thing we did is we've got something like an indicative, a preserved budget just for cities, which means you're just allowed to go in this research project if you have an agreement, if you have a city with you and work hand by hand.
Thank you very much for these interesting examples. I think one observation that one can have is when we speak about kind of innovation labs, demos, living labs, whatever sandboxes, whatever terms are out there, this can be quite confusing on the one hand side, as it is not always so pretty clearly defined maybe what we mean by that. But I think one thing is clear, that over the last years, as we were moving forward with the energy transition, we observed that it is necessary to also move forward with research and innovation and accompany this development in a way that the innovation programs can help to move those technologies into the markets, into the application, and so on. And that is what we are after with, I think, this kind of new formats. And that again puts a challenge, and I don't know if we have our FFG colleagues still among us in the last part of this meeting or not. Yes, I think Clemens is still there, and Peter, because I think this is one of the topics that we have at the moment. So what you were talking about, Clemens, that we are changing, and somehow that is, I think, one of the movements that we see over the last years. And interestingly, and I just wanted to take this out as an example, that was the reason for one of the instruments that we created in addition to the standard instruments that we had in the portfolio, because somehow when you move into this more real life projects where you try to get in more impact on the to the ground, you also need somehow to cluster projects to bigger initiatives in order to reach that impact. And then the question was somehow, okay, how could, and we always had the problem that in the single projects we could not locate this kind of cluster management or so. And then we found, or you found as funding agency, a way with this new instrument of the Innovation Lab to create an instrument that is serving, on the one hand side, this need, but also other needs that were coming from different programs. Because here we are already, again, in the role of, for the role of the funding agency. I mean, you cannot create an own format for each of the new calls or programs that are generated. So you need to find a way how you bring that in a form that serves many of the needs that are there. Can you say a few words about this instrument, the Innovation Lab, and how it was created, or what were the main ideas behind it? Sorry. As we're approaching the end of the event, can we manage to just name a couple of features that this instrument offers? I mean, one feature is, as I tried to introduce, okay, we are able to coordinate different research and innovation projects into a cluster, but there's even more, and they also have to build some kind of a business plan and so on. Can you highlight some of the features that we are able to fund in this new instrument? So it's also that I think if I remember correctly, they are able, I mean, to somehow we are able to support stakeholder involvement processes there. Then also some kind of deriving strategic knowledge beyond, so across all these projects that are involved in the cluster, these kind of things that normally are not so easy to deal with in the funding of normal RDI projects. So these are the features that we need for this kind of new programs, and that's where you built this new instrument around. Gary, I'm sorry, but we are approaching the end of the meeting. If we have some further questions, we have to take them offline. Thank you, everyone, for contributing. Gary, last words from your side as a co-moderator.
I can only say thank you very much to our presenters and for this informative and inspiring view into the Austrian programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. And I think we can announce, and maybe you want to say 1-2 words about this, Gary, our next event on the 16th of April, because we are giving us and also our audience a little bit of an Easter break. But on the 16th of April, we will be back with interesting example for programs from the Netherlands, right?
That's correct. We have a new program that has been started last year. It's called Multi-Annual Mission-Oriented Research and Innovation Program, and we will be happy to take you into the policy background and also the practicalities of implementing that program.
Great, thanks a lot. So we are excited for this digital journey to the Netherlands on the 16th of April, hopefully with a lot of people in the audience that have followed us today, or even more of them. Thank you very much, and please reconnect and stay on board with this series of events. Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend.